But Commissioner Pickens is under the weather. He sent me a text earlier today. He was going to be here to kind of kick the meeting off, but he's got something. He sounded pretty terrible when I called him after he sent me the text. So he'd asked me to welcome everybody here tonight and just kind of turn the floor over to Alex. I know Alex and the team over at Northwest Georgia Regional has been getting all this information put together and have done a great job with trying to spark the conversation. The survey results, it seems like they were pretty responsive in terms of a lot of people responded. I don't know who all's received or had a chance to glance over kind of the big picture of the survey results for tonight, but I think they're pretty fascinating. I think a lot of it's not a surprise. We all probably know some of the bigger things that'll pop up on there, but I think it'll be good to get a chance to go through them. So I'm not going to bug anybody any longer. I'm just going to turn it over to Alex and let him go through everything. I'm going to flip the light so you can see the screen a little better as he's describing it and let y'all go.
Well, I appreciate your patience in coming out today. So for this meeting, I'm just going to discuss two items. I'm going to discuss both environmental planning criteria and the future development map. I mean, not the future development map, but the survey results. For the environmental planning criteria, what it is, it's a partnership between DNR and DCA, and it's just a set of rules. And part of the comprehensive plan, one of my responsibilities is to make sure each local government's aware that these set of rules are out there. And so it's not necessarily a hard set of rules, it's more best management practices. So it's just what it is, it's a document like this, and I'll make sure to email you the actual copy. But there's a couple up here if somebody needs to grab them. And it's just a book of criteria. And it's criteria for water supply watersheds, groundwater recharge protection, wetland protection, criteria for river corridor protection, and criteria for mountain protection. So, out of these categories, the major thing that is in this area to be aware of is really just protecting the mountains. So this is this area in green that's on the east side. And so what it is that elevation of over 2,000 feet and a slope of 25% for 500 feet, I believe. Let's see. And so, let's see. Yes, 25% or greater for at least 500 feet. And these protections really just include erosion and sediment controls. Density controls of dwelling units, and a few other rules established with it. For the watershed, there's two different kinds of water supply watersheds. So there's a large one and a small one. Large is over 100 square miles, which is not present. The smaller is less than 100. So now, where you don't get confused on what this pink is, this is your water supply watershed. That doesn't mean this is a big pocket of water. It just means somewhere down here, there's an intake of where water's coming in one of these streams, and all of that is catch within this catchment. So this is the hill slope. So you got one here where this protected mountain area is, and one right down here. For these protections, let's see. It's buffers, setbacks, reducing impervious surface. There's specific different buffer distances based on how close you are to the intake. Once again, these are just criteria. They're not hard set rules. They're just criteria and suggestions. And to understand why the state of Georgia believes it's important is because natural resources contributes to our economy so much. And so they want to make sure these rules are mentioned. Like I said, I'll make sure the rules or the criteria is sent out. The other area is wetland recharge, or not wetlands, but groundwater recharge, which is this little area right here. This just areas that are more susceptible to pollution. Is where water is actually able to infiltrate into the ground and back into the aquifer system. So it goes to groundwater. And some of this is like just septic systems. Certain rules about septic system, which your health department will, deal with the permit and stuff for that. And there's some rules on storage tanks, so how to store it, storage of agricultural chemicals. And that's just because of the pollution susceptibility. It's easier for water, for whatever reason, probably soil type, to get it into the ground here. And the other items are wetlands and river corridors. So the wetlands you have are just what they call riverine wetlands. So it's whatever's going to be next to a stream. It's whatever's going to make a puddle basically when it floods. You don't have in this area the larger wetlands that you see as you go south. But still some protections involved with it. But it's not anything to worry about around here because they're so small. I mean, they're just little creeks and riverines. And the last item is river corridors, so there's another thing, just like there's protected mountains, there's protected rivers. There's not a protected river in Pickens County. You have to have a flow of 400 cubic feet per second. And those require certain management plans. But you don't have to worry about that. But the rules are in here. If you want to look into the criteria, I need to quick on rules, but criteria. And you can see the best management practices involved. And so that is the environmental planning criteria. It discusses about these items, the watershed, the protected mountains, groundwater recharge, wetland areas, and if you have one, protected rivers. So, is there any questions on that before you go anywhere?
Alex, is there a map for the entire state that would show these same things?
Yeah, so this is the one we made, and I'll send it out as 11 by 17. But I'll also send you a link to the DCA's website. DCA actually has an interactive map, and I'll send that link out, and you can click on it. And of course, it's for the whole state. When I say DCA, Department of Community Affairs, and it has the same premise. And it's where we got these layers to make this map. It's where we knew where everything was. But I'll send this out by 11 by 17 in an email with the criteria rules. So, okay. Any other questions? Okay. So there's one other thing that I'm required to mention. Let's see. Okay. Here it is. The Coosa, North Georgia water plant. So, every 5 years, well, let me take a step back. There's a number of river or regional water areas. Ours is the Coosa, North Georgia. And you can see it in yellow here. And what they talk about, and when they create their plans, they talk about pollution susceptibility to drinking water. And they also talk about redundancy in systems. So if you have a water system, making sure you have redundancy in case there's a failure, and also getting rid of any unneeded duplication. But every 5 years, this was 2017, I'll send the link to you, and I've got some flyers from plans, so you can take a handout if you wish. But just know that this plan's out there, and it's a guide that the state wants me to advise you about. So, and there should be a new plan coming out this year, if I remember correctly, because this is 2017, so it should, I guess in 2022. I don't know how they overlay it, but it should, it's not out now, it should come out soon. So, is there any comments, questions about the water plan?
Is that a division of the Northwest Regional Commission, or how's the structure of that?
No, it's its own individual entity.
Okay.
So, the
Is that
representative,
constitutional? Do the governors start that? Or?
yes,
Okay.
yes, and you can find it on the governor's website.
Okay.
But I'll make sure to send the link out. Let's see, our representative is Brooks, and I can't think of Brooks' last name. But yeah, it is part of the state of Georgia, so. And I'll make sure that information's out there, so. And a large portion of it is just water quality,
Yeah.
so. Any other questions? Not, we'll go to survey results.
What are we supposed to do with this information? Are we supposed to get something and get it to you?
No.
No.
I'm just supposed to inform you that it's out there and to make you aware. And, you know, the criteria is like, you understand best management practices, so it's basically best management practices.
Okay.
So, but, you know, since I'm doing the comprehensive planning process, it's the easiest way to kind of get this information out there, so. Okay. Okay, so survey results. So whenever I do the comprehensive plan, I have a section in there called needs and opportunities. Part of the needs and opportunities, I include the survey results. And this kind of informs what the public's thinking and also kind of have an understanding of what future needs or opportunities are. Also, part of your work program, which is just an item, a wish list item, or one of the work items that you would desire, or local government would desire to accomplish in 5 years, will have to have a code. And I have to create that code, and I base it on the results. And that code is just really for the DCO. So the important thing is just your work program items and to understand these survey results are out there. So, as you can see, you actually have a pretty dispersed distribution of responses, which I always like to put this up here because it always amazes me. I'm only zoomed into the United States, but I think there was actually some responses in Europe. So somebody probably visited or living here has some kind of relationship with that. You can see the distribution of the map. It's mostly United States. This is a trend I've noticed with other communities, is this little area right here in the Midwest, it always has a few people out there. So we had a total of, even though it doesn't say, actually the total's a little bit higher than that. I think it's 1,195. Oh, I know what it is. Okay. So it's not taking into consideration for some reasons in the disqualified math. So complete is 881, 137 did not finish the survey. Which is about par, to be honest, with the other surveys we've done. So, let's see, how does this work? Okay. Majority of people, where they live is going to be Pickens County. And, you know, anytime in here, if you have any comments or questions, let me know, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to gauge the additional information I may need to put in the plan. Most of the majority lives in Pickens County, 73%, followed by Jasper. These are the people that took the survey. Talking Rock had a good response for the size of Talking Rock. And Nelson had the least amount. But I will say this about Nelson. I was curious when I saw the results, so I went and looked at commuting patterns. And Nelson had a large portion of his population that leaves when it commutes out to go to work. And so I think when you have smaller communities that are more bedroom, you have less survey results or responses there. And so, and that's probably just dealing with the fact that Nelson's also part of the Cherokee. Any comments? Okay.
Those percentages are percent of the total, is that correct?
Yes, the previous slide was presented the total.
Gotcha, thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. And for those that responded that they lived in the individual entity, wherever their individual community was, this is their response numbers. And you can see the numbers are a little bit different. So, Pickens had about 1,000 individuals. Jasper 191, Topham Rock 76, and Nelson 15. So this was the gauge of rating your community. The majority of people rated their community on a scale from excellent to poor, meaning good or okay. So the majority of people had, you know, a moderate to moderately positive outlook on their community. So it's a trend seen through all four communities. And, you know, Topham Rock had the highest people that saw their community as being an excellent place to live. Any comments, questions? Appreciate you guys' patience. I know it's kind of slow, but I want to make sure everybody's informed. So the majority of people that took the survey was 35 to 54, which I was really proud of that number. I mean, it's not an uncommon number to see it being the middle grouping, but sometimes you get in this situation where a lot of the focus is on the older individuals. So I feel like this is a fairly good distribution because you even have 18% of people from 18 to 34, and sometimes they are the hardest demographic to really focus on. So 38% of the responses were between 35 and 54, 30% was between 55 and 69, 18% was from 18 to 34, 12% or almost 13% was 70 or over. So, comments, questions?
How did you determine who received the survey? Or I'm sorry, I said that wrong. What information did you get to send out that survey? The reason why I ask is because the percentages for Talking Rock are so high. You had 76 some people respond.
Right.
It's almost like, if I'm doing my math right, it's high 80s, low 90% of the citizens in the city of Talking Rock. So.
Well, for Talking Rock, I don't. So what I'm thinking is, it may be referenced to zip code. So I don't know if you have. I don't know if the whole zip code's within your bounds, or if it spans out.
Okay, well, the reason why I said that was I received the survey, but my wife did not. Is
Really?
it one per household?
It should be only one.
Ah.
So, but it's made available digitally, so you can take it as many times as you wanted to.
Okay.
So, but I don't know. Do you think something needs to be adjusted?
Well, if you look at Pickens County and Jasper overall, the percentage of people that conducted the survey, it's a very low percentage based on the population of those areas. So something's missing. That's
Well-
why I'm skeptical when it comes to surveys, because the numbers are so skewed anyway. If you had, what is the original criteria of the people that you're trying to receive, the amount, so you can establish the baseline of any survey. That's really what it is. If you have 5 people out of 100 provide information on a survey, how reliable is the survey?
Right.
I was just curious.
Right.
I do that.
And those are the results for only those that responded, they live in Talking Rock, so, but no, that's what I needed to know. That's the reason I'm here. So,
Now, it's along those same lines of what he's asking, when you see other counties where you're doing these, with the survey results being roughly 1/34 of the total population, is that consistent
Yeah,
throughout other counties?
yeah, it is unfortunately. I should have done a little bit extra hard push at the end. I believe, if I remember correct, the most impressive response we had was from Gordon County, 2,300, maybe higher. I did get 1,200 from Dade County, and that's pretty good out of a population of 16,000. So this is about par. So you really want statistically about 10%, but I've learned that there reaches a point that it really doesn't matter. You know, once you reach just enough people, those percentages doesn't change. And the main thing is making sure everybody has availability to it. So, but I appreciate you pointing out the numbers. That's the reason I'm here, is to make sure everything seems in place. Okay. All right. So, employment stats. Almost 60% said they were employed. 23% said retired, and 10% actually said self-employed. And I didn't add up the totals to see where that comes out at. So, you know, good employment number at almost 60%. Primary location of Pickens, or of employment, majority of people that did the survey said their employment was in Pickens. Followed very closely to Jasper. And Talking Rock mentioned 16, but remember, part of these could be self-employed. So, but, well, the majority of people actually, I'm sorry, went outside of Pickens, but being so close to Cherokee, that makes sense. So, any comments, corrections you see? Maybe needed? No.
Keep on going.
Do you own a business? 82% said no. And of those, the majority of them that did own a business identified being in Pickens County, followed by Jasper. What type of employment status? Need to go back and see why this just says employed. Well, that's the same one. I'm sorry. The difference is, okay, I didn't carry that over. It just includes stay-at-home parent and caregiver. I apologize. So, almost 5% said they were stay-at-home parent or caregiver. Okay. Broadband access. Majority of people said they did have broadband and the speed was active. If you know, this is one of the state of Georgia's big initiative, is to provide broadband to everybody. But the majority of people said they did have broadband. Majority of them said it was adequate speed. So, and that's for businesses and homes. Okay, here we go. Community strengths. So, a majority of people, and I'll send this presentation out to everybody. The number one thing that people identified as a strength is small town atmosphere and sense of community. Well, actually, scenic views and natural beauty, followed by that, which are interrelated. So that's usually the two I see the highest number on, is natural beauty and small town atmosphere. So those are the dominant two at high 70%. But positively also is proximity and access to 515, which I think it's important to remember that because, you know, everybody says that they identify it being a very attractive location, small town location, but you also have proximity to a highway that allows you to get toward Atlanta. So, just something just to kind of keep in mind. Is there any questions or comments or on the strengths? As you see, local school system was at almost 10%. But yes, those were the top two. Parks and Rec was at 10%. So once again, that goes with scenic. It's not necessarily related to scenic, but often associated. So, comments, questions? So, all right. I appreciate y'all's patience. Came on. Okay, weaknesses. So community weaknesses, conversely. I try to keep everything consistent, like you'll see here. I also make sure to put in proximity and access to 575, 515. Have redundancy for comparison contrast. Just staying on the theme, the number one concern was loss of natural resources in agriculture. So, natural beauty. Next weakness is water and sewer infrastructure availability. There's some people identified not having enough of. Next is the condition of your sewer infrastructure. Your water and sewer infrastructure was a concern by the people that did the survey. Lack of workforce, and losing workforce to other counties and municipalities. And those are all staying within a range between about 30 to 25%. So that's a good amount of consistency. Which is not good or bad, but at least you know kind of where you stand on your community. Is there any comments or questions on that? If I need to give a better explanation, please do so. Please tell me to do so, I should say. That's what I'm here for.
Do you have this, do you have this available like on the website or handouts or something?
Yeah, so I'll make it available.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Are you on my email list?
Probably not, I'll make sure you.
Yeah, make sure you sign in. When y'all sign in, if you're not on my email address, make sure to put it on there.
Okay.
For this one, I've not ever put the full survey results in as appendix, but I think I will in this one because I think the public input with this being a mountain county is really important. The difference is I'm not going to include all the comments for others. You know, it's something that one of our other planners does, that she makes sure to include the survey results because the public did take the survey. But those that are not applicable doesn't go in. So it's always a select number, and we stay within a theme. So I'm going to try to make sure these are also available in the appendix in the back. some comments just weren't, tangible to the purpose of the survey, so. Any comments or questions, concerns? And they don't have to go in there. I mean, I've got the results within the actual plan itself. And so I can take feedback from that. We can just do it that way. The actual chapter, the needs and opportunities chapter, just leave the results in there. But I never put the full results in that section. So, okay. Projects. What kind of projects does your community or your residents wish to see? So pretty good distribution here. Small business development is number 1 at 50%. Sewer and water improvements are number 2 at 45%. Local retail, which would be associated with small business development, is at 42. Public parks, 37.5. Broadband availability is 32.5, but as we've said before, people are pleased with their broadband. So I think it's just a key word or phrase people picked up on. But the items I would focus on is small business development, sewer and water improvements. The public that took the survey sees that as a need. They want more local retail, and they want more public parks, or at least public parks improvements. So, any comments? Please, if you do, feel free to. Housing preference. Okay. This may be a little bit confusing. I may change how this looks before I put in the plan. So I divided up the preference into, do you see it as a house, a certain house as an asset, or do you see it as a threat? So the blue shows what people want, the red shows what people don't want. And I probably will change this, how this looks, now that I kind of look at it. But anyway, so number 1 thing people want is your traditional owner-occupied homes. So not planned unit developments, not tiny homes, not apartments, but your traditional lot houses. And of course, nobody wants to see, that stays within the theme. So, next, middle income housing. So, there's a big push now called the missing middle. It's a concern throughout the United States, a concern throughout Georgia. There's no real affordable housing. And it is somewhat worrisome because it's just, there's not a true definition of affordability now in comparison to before. So you see, if I was able to compare this to probably your middle-aged people, or younger people, I should say, their biggest desire is probably to see middle-income housing or more affordable housing. And this is not Section 8. This is just your nice starter home, at least. I put in mobile homes. Nobody desired to see that. That was a big negative. Small lot subdivisions. Nobody wanted to see small lot subdivisions. But once again, you're talking about the biggest worry is people's concern about loss of natural beauty, the small atmosphere feeling. So the concerns with the small lot subdivision is that's going to take away from it. So, and I think, yep. Any comments or questions? Stuff I can do better? Stuff I need to take into consideration? Go ahead. Oh.
Can you read those out from the bottom to the top or vice versa?
Yes, I did. Yeah, no, and I apologize, this didn't come out better.
Well, when we have a hard copy, it'll be easier, but.
Well, and once you get a hard copy, if you have questions or you have questions after leaving here, email me. Okay. Okay. So, bottom to the top, owner occupied homes, high-end housing developments. So these will be your bigger mansion houses. I don't know why it scored so high on the positive scale, but it may just be confusing on how I phrased it.
It's what groups took the survey, I'm sure.
I'm sure it is, now that I think about it. Middle income housing, small lot subdivision, planned unit development, which is your it's usually your conservation subdivision. But people hear the word planned and they don't like the phrase conservation subdivision, they don't like the phrase planned unit development, but so that's the reason that's so negative.
So when we have a PUD here, just so you'll know, and for those in the audience, so when we have a PUD, we get a lot of feedback about it being HUD housing. I'll just tell you that's what the public thinks.
Well, once again, it's that point. Planned unit.
It's really just mixed use.
It's just mixed use, that's all it is. And maybe I should have phrased it as mixed use. I actually did put mixed use, retail and residential.
He says it's home run.
Yeah. So, that's an excellent point. I probably should take that into consideration, looking at those numbers. Anyway, follow-up comments? Manufactured mobile homes, 1 per lot, did not get a very positive response. This was actually supposed to go down here. This is manufactured mobile home parks. Did not get a favorable response. Apartments were not seen as favorable. Duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes was not seen as positive. Actually, tiny homes had more positive connotation than negative. And that's the thing to think about. This is the reason I created this. This one is to show the positive connotation versus negative, but this actually doesn't work the way I want it to, so I'm going to have to fix it. Senior retiree housing, rental housing, mixed use, residential housing, and other, which allow people to just put in a response. Go ahead.
Alice, one question. It would be helpful for those of us in the audience if we could get you to email this out
Of course.
to your list ahead of time.
Yes. Well,
That would be, my eyes have gotten out of where I don't think I can see that as good as I used to.
you don't see one?
I'm sorry?
That's it. I'll go back through and look through my email addresses and I'll provide them. So, any other comments? Questions? Would y'all like me to do the same for when y'all can see the projects? Y'all want to discuss that in any way? Seeing how those may be bigger things to consider over the next 5 years?
Do you have a single printed copy of it, by any chance?
I do not.
Okay, I was about to say, we can run upstairs and make copies so everybody can have it in their hands, but okay.
If you, we can make copies. I mean, I got them with thumb drive. Y'all want to do that?
Would you mind running it over?
That's this time.
But that way you've got it to carry on with you instead of waiting on an email. If you ran and just made copies real
Oh,
quick,
yeah.
you can run upstairs and just print them out. If we've got it.
It's up there. It's up to y'all.
Received it in the
Yeah.
email.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and knock.
Yeah, and this looks a little bit different than what was in the email. But yeah, these results.
No surprises there, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. But I did want to bring it to your attention, because it may just confirm what you're already thinking. I mean, small business development, sewer and water improvements, I think you all agree to that. And that's part of it, just confirming what you may already know. So, having the number to it. There's no comments or questions, that's all I have for this meeting. May do one more meeting where this is something I need to discuss. Do you think an open house would be positively responded to? I'll have the future development maps included, which should be finished by your review. I'll have the survey results on big posters, and I just need to set it up in a place where people can walk in for a specific time. Y'all don't have to be there. It'll be just me being there responding. If you think the public would respond to that in a positive way,
They have in the past.
It's becoming difficult. The chamber might be better if we can get with the chamber. I don't know, are they gonna be finished soon with construction? If they're 3 weeks away from being finished, that might be a great spot just to have it set up on display
yes,
for everybody to walk through.
I think so. I think it's important to do so.
I mean, Chat Tech would be good too, but you've got classes and everything going on, so the chamber may be a little bit more convenient just to drive through and do a quick walkthrough.
Right. And
What's the process moving forward, Alex, as far as,
so, right now, I'm looking to have a draft done by March 15th for y'all to review. That would give enough time for y'all to review it, set up a second public meeting, and then give DCA the 60 to 90 days they wish to have. But the draft itself, I'm looking at March 15th, maybe earlier,
what's the deadline for the DCA?
June 30th. Go ahead. What's up?
You were gonna send some layer files to the city to help
Yes.
assist,
I did. I
you
sent
did,
it to.
sent them to
yes.
Emmy and Kim?
Yeah, I sent them to Mary today.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So, any other comments, questions, concerns? I'm gonna try to get this out quick enough to let y'all read it and respond to it and provide comments. And if y'all have any comments, please feel free to provide it or send me an email. Before you leave, make sure to sign out. But I think an open house would be a good idea. I can include, I don't know, I can include a way for the public to write notes, and I can take those notes into consideration. It just shows a little extra transparency. Right now, we're just kind of, we've gone through a little bit of staffing changes at the regional commission, so it's kind of scattered here and there. But I think I like that idea for everybody else does. So, anything else? If not, that's all I have to say. But if you have any comments or questions, I mean anything that I need to take into consideration, make sure to tell me. Before you leave, if you would sign in, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.